Yeah.
When do I
Yeah,
start?
that's right.
When do I start?
Go.
Have you ever wondered what the parts of a computer are and how they would function or what parts are good? Well, I am the guy to tell you. So let's get into the parts. I am going to teach you about three parts: the CPU, GPU, and the storage of a computer. I am only doing three parts because I can only do 3 paragraphs. Now let's talk about the CPU, the brain of the computer. And how do you know the CPU is good? Well, there is a thing called clock speed. Clock speed is described in gigahertz today, but back in the day, it was described in megahertz and even kilohertz. Hertz is how many cycles are being made in a second. 1 hertz is 1 cycle per second. 1 gigahertz is equivalent to 1 billion cycles per second. So now you know what clock speed is. And let's see what CPUs there are. Intel's i3, i5, or i7 should be enough to run your games and everyday tasks. But if you have bunches of money to blow, I would recommend an i9 processor that goes up to 5 gigahertz. But if those CPUs aren't enough to handle your 4K video editing and ultra settings in games, there's Ryzen Threadripper by AMD that can handle your 4K video editing in ultra settings and has bunches of cores and threads. Oh, and speaking of that, let me teach you what a core is. A core is a part of a CPU that receives instructions and performs calculations or actions based on those instructions. Like having people working for you, the faster the job is done. Yay, this is my favorite part, the GPU. The GPU is the eye of the computer processing graphics, which means GPU stands for Graphics Processing Unit. And similar to the CPU, there is clock speed, except it is only measured in megahertz. The most a GPU can clock to is 3 gigahertz frequency, which is ultra fast, but do you know what is not similar? It uses CUDA cores. CUDA stands for Compute Unified Device Architecture, but this time you need a bunch of CUDA cores because 2 CUDA cores cannot even run Roblox at minimum settings. And this only goes for NVIDIA GPUs because AMD uses stream processors in their RX and Radeon GPUs. But clock speed and how many cores does not only tell people about the performance of a CPU, the type of memory you have also does. There are 2 types of memory. There is DDR or GDDR. GDDR is meant for GPUs, but DDR can also be for graphics cards, way slower. And now on to video memory, as known as VRAM. How much video memory also affects your performance. 2 gigabytes of video memory is probably the minimum requirement for most games, but if you want more, there are 11 gigabytes video cards or even 24 gigabytes. Oh, okay, that's enough about GPUs. Now let's move on to the storage. Now this is super important because the type of storage you use also affects the speed of the computer. There are 3 types: an HDD hard drive disk, and an SSD solid state drive, and an SSHD solid state hybrid drive. But there are types of HDDs and SSDs too. There is a 5,400 gram per minute hard drive, and 7,000 gram per minute hard drive, which is 33% faster than the 5,000 gram per minute hard drive. And finally, the SSHD. An SSHD is basically an HDD and an SSD combined together, basically saying it has the speed of an SSD and the price of the storage of an HDD, except it is a bit slower than an actual SSD. Let's compare prices now. An SSD is more expensive than an HDD because it is faster, and an SSHD is in the middle of them. And now, let's get into the capacity of storage, because that's why storage is called storage. There are gigabytes, 1,024 megabytes, and there are terabytes, 1,024 gigabytes. But what if you want to save money but still want speed? Well, you can get a low-capacity SSD to boot up your computer and be the main storage of your computer, and have a cheap, high-capacity hard drive to store your files using the Windows app settings. That's it. And in conclusion, explain computers is not simple. And remember, if you have a question about computers, I am